You guys can kind of mess with that one. But I've actually used Solarium in a couple of different ways, not just as an evangelism tool. I'll explain how I do that first as far as using it as an evangelism tool, but there's a lot of ways that you can use it. So what it is there's 50 pictures, and they range from, all over the place, to this girl dancing in the rain, to birds, to children running, to they're whatever. So what I normally do when I've done this as far as doing initiative evangelism on campus, or for a lot of y'all, you might be going into, a team setting and you're trying to start conversations, you can just go up and ask them, say, I have this stack of 50 pictures and I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for people's spiritual journeys on campus and what they've gone through and how they've gotten to the point where they are. And ask them if they have time to just do a quick picture survey with you. And just make sure I'm not losing track of what I'm doing. So the first question is, you ask them to pick 3 images to describe your life right now. And you can cut out as many questions as you want. There's 5 main questions that you do. But you ask them to pick 3 images to describe your life. And you can also do this in a group setting. If you've got a couple people from a team, or you've gone up to a table of people on campus, you can just put all the cards out on the table. And it helps them stay engaged. It's one of my favorite things about Solarium is it's very engaging because they're having to look through the pictures and think about it. So you have them pick 3 pictures, and then you ask them to just, you can even just do 1. If you have a huge group, don't have them pick 3 because they won't make enough pictures for everyone. But then you just have them pick 3 pictures that describe their life, and you ask them to explain it. And with that, you can go into the wondering questions. Well, if they pick, a glass of wine, and they say, well, whatever reason they give for why this is a part of their life right now, and you ask them, more in-depth questions as to why that is. And when I find it's really helpful getting people that are not necessarily, used to, engage, having deep conversations, it helps, really foster deep conversations for students that are not used to it. And then you can also ask them with it, which images do you wish represented your life? And another question you can do is, what does it say? What desire does each of these images represent about your life? So when you have them pick out the 3 pictures showing the images that they wish represented their life, ask them what they desire. And this is just super helpful because it reveals the desires of where their heart is, whether those are spiritual things, whether they're, kind of where they're at, even in their spiritual journey. So another one that we do is you ask them to pick a card that describes God to them. And this is one of my favorites because I feel like it just starts to really open that box of where they are spiritually and where they've come from. And this tends to be one of the longest ones too, because you can ask questions. Well, what's brought you to this point of having this view of God? What things have shaped this view of God for you? Or has there been anyone that shaped? And you can ask them, are there specific people that have helped shape this view of God? And then the last question I normally do is asking them to pick 1 or 2 cards to describe their spiritual journey. And, that can apply to someone that's had a Christian, background, or someone that's had a completely, I've had these conversations with atheists, and they can pick a card that describes their spiritual journey, whatever that may look at. And with that kind of transitions really well into going into a KGP or some other form of, if you just want to, share the gospel without using a booklet. But, because you can ask them as they're talking about God, I loved what you've shared about how this represents God or your lack of God to you. And that's, some people will give you, well, I don't believe in God and this represents why, or whatever that may be. And then you can transfer into, can I share with you a little more about what my, take on God is, or my take on my spiritual journey, or what, how my spiritual journey is played out. And it's just an easy way to transfer into sharing the gospel, and however you want to go about that. Another cool thing to continue using these with doing that is picking a picture to describe each point. So God loves you and has a personal, has a unique plan for your life, picking the bird and, kind of showing that the Lord's, gentleness with us and the fact that he loved us and created us. And so you can use these pictures. And I know for me, I'm a very visual person, so having stuff like this in front of me helps, especially with people like me. Just being able to have pictures to associate with each point. And it honestly helps with them taking it away, too, because they have this visual image in their head of what each point was represented by. So then another way that I use this is in follow-up appointments. So whether you've done like a team meeting and you're trying to follow up with students that are interested or not interested or whatever they may be, and you can use these questions just to help figure out where they are spiritually and to help kind of just engage them into kind of a discussion of what they're interested in, where they want to go as far as their walk with the Lord. And you can ask them to pick a card like, where do you wish your spiritual journey was right now? Like, where would you like to be? This might be where you are, but where would you like to be? So use it in follow-up. And it's even, just sitting at a coffee shop or something, it's easy to just put it on a table or whatever. And just, it helps with, I feel like, engaging them in that way. I've also used it with disciples, like when we've come back from Christmas break or from summer, and just helping them to kind of figure out where they are coming out of that season. So asking them questions like, how would you describe the last season of your life? And pick like 3 pictures to describe what God's done in the past season of your life, or or the void that you felt in the past season of your life. So use it in that, and then to help them pick cards too to figure out, well, where do you want your spiritual journey to go this semester? Where do you want God to take you in these next few months? And then have them pick a card or 2 to describe that. And then I also use it at the end of a semester, like before they go into Christmas break or before they go into summer, just to kind of help them figure out kind of the same questions, like pick like 2 images to describe what you want to see your summer look like. Like, how would you like God to use you this summer? Or if there's things that they need to work on, how can you pick a picture that kind of displays things that, that you need to work on this summer or this season of life. So I've used it in that setting too. I've also used it in just big campus outreaches where we blew up I think we blew up 5 cards and had them on poster-sized pieces. And I've seen this done in a weekly meeting as well. Just with helping with engaging students before, to attract people to a weekly meeting. So we blew them up into poster-sized cards, and I don't remember how many we had, but we just had students standing around them, and people obviously came up. There's these, if you have a huge picture of, silverware, blown up, people are like, what the heck are they doing? And you can just kind of ask students as they come up, what does this picture mean to you? What do you see in this? And then they'll probably, sometimes they'll ask you what you think about it. And then you can ask them some of these questions. How would you do any of these pictures describe your spiritual journey? Do any of these pictures describe any kind of view of God you have or a lack of view of God? So it helps facilitate conversations with complete strangers, which is something that I love about it. I'm more comfortable doing this than a survey or, just starting with with a conversation from out of nothing. So yeah, I've gotten into some really great discussions with it, and really, I think, helped, working with girls a lot in college, helping them to surface things that they wouldn't normally talk about, and to surface things that needed to be addressed, and I could read into things well as, by the pictures that they picked out. So, yeah, and just saying, if you get a Solarium, they have the questions in them, and they have ideas as to how to use them there too. So, but yeah, I guess that's kind of it. Or do you have any questions for how? I don't know.
I have a question. Just with there's 50 cards. So do you give them the stack, hand them to them like a deck of cards, and they kind of just flip through them in their hands?
I kind of gauge it on the time. If I'm in more of a crunch for time, I'll give them half the stack, because for some people, it's really hard to pick out, from that big of amount of pictures. So I'll give them, half the stack, and have them just choose through, because they have no idea whether half exists, so, it doesn't matter. But, too, with a group, you want to give them the whole stack, because you need to have as many cards as possible. But you can also do it where you pick, 4 cards, kind of like we did with the ones that we blew up, and just ask them, specifically from the 4 cards you've picked, how does this describe whatever you're in your life? So, yeah.
I have a question, kind of from your experiences. Does it transition well, in a sense? Is it easy to kind of guide to a certain place while listening, right? So you don't want to just kind of say, well, this is where we're going anyway.
Yeah.
But how's it, transition-wise? Is it smooth? Have at times has it been a little bit awkward to say, well, no, okay, let's transition from this question to the next one? What's just been your